All right, so we're diving into something pretty interesting today. We've got Maria Teresa de Santos Jimenez's CV, and let me tell you, it's not your average resume.
It's quite something.
I mean, actuary, A&D, civil engineer, those two don't usually go together. What do you make of that?
Well, it's this fascinating mix, right? You've got the analytical strength of an actuary, thinking about risk, forecasting financial outcomes. They're all about precision.
Right, like seeing the numbers.
Exactly. But then you layer on the practical, hands-on experience of a civil engineer, someone who knows how things are actually built.
The nuts and bolts, literally.
Exactly. So it's not just about crunching numbers for Maria Teresa. It's about understanding how those numbers translate into the real world, into actual structures.
So she's fluent in spreadsheets, A&D blueprints. That's got to be valuable. I mean, especially in fields like, say, construction or infrastructure, right?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine trying to figure out the risk of a huge infrastructure project. Most people would only see the financial side, the dollars and cents.
Right, the bottom line.
But Maria Teresa, she brings in this whole other dimension. She gets the engineering realities, the potential weaknesses, how long materials last. That's a whole other level of risk assessment.
It's like she's got X-ray vision, but for risks. She can see the financial side, A&D, the physical forces all at once.
Exactly. And that's so important now more than ever because those lines are getting blurry. Think about it. Climate change is affecting infrastructure. New technologies are changing how we build. The economy is unpredictable. You need people who can handle that.
And Maria Teresa's experience seems perfect for that. But how do you even start a career that spans such different fields? Let's go back to the beginning. It looks like she started out on actual construction sites, working for companies like Dragados and Intexa. That's boots-on-the-ground stuff. What does that kind of experience teach you?
That early experience is invaluable. You can learn the theory of engineering, sure, but being out there on a construction site, you're dealing with unexpected problems, materials, deadlines, coordinating teams. That's where the real learning happens.
It's like the difference between reading a cookbook and actually baking a cake. You can know the ingredients, but actually being in the kitchen, flour everywhere, trying to make it work, that's totally different.
Exactly. And those years probably gave her a gut feeling for not just how to build things, but also how easily things can go wrong, which is perfect for risk assessment later on, wouldn't you say?
You think that's where her interest in risk started? Seeing firsthand how even the most well-planned projects could have delays, go over budget, or even have safety problems.
It's definitely possible. And remember, she didn't just stick to one type of construction. She worked on projects all over Europe, America, Africa.
Hold on. She was going global that early in her career.
Exactly. And that international experience, it's not just about seeing the world. It's about understanding different cultures, different rules and regulations, different ways of approaching construction and risk. That's invaluable.
Okay, this is already blowing my mind, and we haven't even gotten to the risk assessment part yet. But before we move on, I want to go back to something you said earlier about Maria Teresa's career, showing how powerful it can be to combine different fields, to not be afraid to be interested in lots of things. What advice would you give to someone listening who feels stuck, like they have all these different interests but don't know how to make them work together?
That's a great question and something a lot of people struggle with. I think the first thing is, don't underestimate the value of your own experiences.
Like those hobbies you have, the volunteer work you do, even that weird class you took in college, those are all part of what makes you unique, right?
Exactly. It all adds up. Those experiences might seem totally random, but they contribute to your perspective. And Maria Teresa's story really shows that.
So let's talk about that move into risk assessment. What do you think that was like for her, going from hands-on engineering to something more analytical?
I imagine it felt like a natural next step. After all those years on construction sites, seeing projects from the ground up, she probably had a sixth sense for what could go wrong.
Like an intuition for risk.
Exactly. Risk assessment is basically taking that practical knowledge and applying it more broadly, often on a global scale.
And her CV shows she really jumped in head first. We see projects in Europe, America, Africa. Was that global perspective common in her field back then?
It's definitely valuable, always has been. But for Maria Teresa, with her international experience already, it probably felt like a natural progression. Remember, risk isn't just about numbers on a page. It's about understanding the context, the culture, the specific challenges of a place.
It's completely different building, say, in a seismically active zone in South America versus a project in Northern Europe.
Exactly. And having experienced those different environments firsthand, invaluable for someone assessing risk globally.
It's like she was building this mental encyclopedia of risk factors, each project a new entry. And speaking of new chapters, this is where her career takes another turn. She moves from assessing risk to managing it, going into insurance and underwriting at MAPFRE Global Risks. Can you tell me more about that? What does an underwriter actually do?
So underwriting is all about evaluating and pricing risk. Let's say you're an insurance company and someone wants to insure a huge construction project.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
An underwriter, like Maria Teresa, would analyze all the possible risks. We're talking natural disasters, materials failing, economic downturns, everything. They use data, statistics, and their own expertise to figure out how likely those risks are to actually happen.
It's like trying to predict the future. But instead of a crystal ball, you've got actuarial tables and a really good understanding of how things work.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where her unique experience really comes in. She's not just looking at numbers. She's got that practical background from engineering, the global perspective from risk assessment.
So you can see the whole picture.
Right. She can spot risks other underwriters might miss, the ones that aren't always obvious just from the data.
Like, she can see the future of the project before it's even built. No wonder she managed a portfolio worth over 70 million euros. But she didn't stop there, did she?
Yeah.
This is where Fidelidad comes in, right?
Exactly. Maria Teresa took on the role of chief underwriting officer. So she's gone from assessing risk to leading teams, setting strategies, and she's ultimately responsible for how the whole underwriting department performs financially.
Wow, that's a huge jump. That takes a whole other skill set.
Absolutely. You need leadership, strategic thinking, the ability to motivate and inspire a team, and let's not forget the business sense needed to actually drive growth. Remember that 91% premium increase she achieved? That doesn't just happen. That's understanding the market, making smart choices, and managing risks effectively.
She's a rock star. Okay, we've covered a lot, but there's one part of her journey we haven't even touched on yet. Her entrepreneurial side.
Oh, right. Her ventures with Tela de Hormigon and biowaste energy. This is where we see a different dimension of her drive.
And these weren't just side gigs. These were real companies dealing with importing construction materials, exploring renewable energy. How does that entrepreneurial experience fit into everything else she's done? It's like she can't help but build new things, whether it's companies or bridges, right?
And that kind of drive, that entrepreneurial spirit, it's gold. Even in a corporate setting, it tells you she's not afraid to try new things, to shake things up a bit.
She's always looking for a better way. And speaking of better ways, one thing that really stands out in her CV is this focus on process improvement, making things run more efficiently. Everywhere she goes, it seems like she finds ways to smooth things out.
Absolutely. Streamlining underwriting processes at Fidelidad, finding better ways to handle those massive international insurance programs. She's got a talent for spotting those bottlenecks and fixing them.
It's huge, though.
Yeah.
Think about how much time and money companies waste on inefficient processes. It's got to be a lot, right? If you're the person who can come in and just make things better, that's invaluable. In fact, I bet most people listening have encountered some clunky process at work or even in their own lives. What if you looked at it like Maria Teresa might? What could you improve? What could be streamlined?
That's the key, isn't it? Being a problem solver.
Exactly. And problem solving isn't just about technical skills, right?
Oh, absolutely not. It's about people skills, too. Something else Maria Teresa seems to have mastered. Think about managing those global insurance programs, working with clients all over the world. That takes some serious negotiation skills, relationship building.
For sure. Different cultures, different communication styles, building trust with people who see things differently than you do. Those soft skills are essential, especially in a globalized world.
Couldn't agree more. And it's not just about getting the deal. It's about creating lasting relationships, making sure everyone feels heard and understood. That's how you build strong teams, strong organizations.
So, let's see, we've got the analytical skills, the practical know-how, global perspective, leadership, that entrepreneurial spirit, a knack for making things better, and top-notch people skills. What are we missing?
There's one more quality that really ties it all together that seems to be a constant throughout her career: adaptability.
Ah, right. I mean, think about it, going from hands-on engineering to risk assessment, then to the financial side of insurance, even starting her own companies. That takes some serious flexibility.
It's more than just changing jobs. It's about being open to new ideas, learning new things, adapting to new challenges. In a world that's constantly changing, that adaptability is crucial. It's not an accident that she got her master's in agile methodology later in her career.
Talk about walking the walk. She's not just keeping up, she's ahead of the curve. It's really been inspiring to look at her career like this. So, as we wrap up, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important lesson here is that your career doesn't have to follow a straight line. Embrace the unexpected. Look for the connections between your experiences, and don't be afraid to create your own path. You never know what incredible opportunities are out there.
Great advice. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the fascinating career of Maria Teresa de Santos Jimenez.